What's going on today, man? Today you talking with Tunchi, and we got a special interview today. It's my man Paul NOOM. We're gonna go over a few things, you know what I'm saying, about how you can go from one lifestyle to the next, and it ain't nothing that can stop you if you put your mind to it and you put your mind toward having a better life, man. So I want to introduce my man, man. How you doing today, bro?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
That's good, man. Where you from originally?
I'm from Australia. I've been in the United States now for going on 12 years, and this is where my life is now.
Okay, like, man, we all had, like, rough times growing up, and there's a lot of people that might not expect you to have such a rough time growing up and made mistakes. You know what I'm saying? We all human and we all make mistakes. So, like, I want you to kind of give a little background on, like, what type of things you used to be into and when you was growing up and you was back in Australia, how it was.
Yep. When I was a kid, from like 16 up into my, like 20, I was running with a group of guys that were not quite straight. We used to sell some weed. Some of them used to sell some heroin. We used to break into houses, steal cars, dealing drugs, and a lot of that kind of stuff. Not so much anything violent, but all illegal. And I lost a couple of good friends through addiction. One of my friends was murdered by the crew that he was working for, and I came very close to getting arrested myself for doing possession with intent to sell, and it scared me straight. From that day I turned my life around. I want to do it legit.
Okay, so, like, man, I was listening, man, and, like, one of the things that really kind of stuck out to me is when you say, like, one of your friends was murdered by the crew. Like I know, like, we ain't got to say the crew's name, of course. We're not going to say the name of it, but, like, can you kind of get, like, the details of, like, what went down with that situation?
Right. He was working with a motorcycle club back home in Australia, and I'm not going to say any names, but one of their big angles was selling heroin, and he was a mule that he would pick up from where it was being brought in Sydney, and he'd run it down to Adelaide, where I'm from, which is about a 14-hour drive, and he would hand it over to the crew there, and they would do all the distribution. He was nothing more than a carrier from one point to another. In his life, he found Jesus. He wanted to turn his life around. He wanted to give it all away, give it all up. And he thought he'd do the right thing by going to these guys and tell them that he quits, that he wants nothing more to do with it. He just wants to walk away, and they wouldn't have it. They said nobody quits on them. The only way out is basically you get fired. And while he was trying to argue the point that he wanted to walk away, they clubbed his head in with a cricket bat, and then they cut the body into pieces and dumped it in the ocean off the coast of South Australia. And the only reason that I know this information is because the police were at that time running an investigation on these guys, and they were listening with sound surveillance equipment, and they heard the guys that did it, they heard their confession to their boss about what had happened on that particular day, and that was enough evidence for them to get busted. And then all the details came out that my friend Joey was dead. He was murdered and dumped in the ocean, no remains. And yeah, that's scary stuff.
Damn, man, that sounds terrible, man. And okay, one more thing I want you to iterate on. You said that you almost got caught. Like, how did that happen? Like, what was the details on that one?
All right. I used to run a lot of weed and a lot of cannabis products, hash, Buddha sticks, and just plain weed. And I'll pick it up from my supplier, and then, I'd sell it on the street. And one day when I was coming home from making a pickup, I got stopped by the police on the side of the road, and they were asking me all kinds of questions. Where was I going? What was I doing? Did I have anything in my pockets that I shouldn't have? And they just, were putting me over the fire, And fortunately, they didn't search me, because at that time I had pockets full of stuff that I really shouldn't have had. And the cops let me go. They believed that I was doing nothing, and that I was, innocent, I guess. And they let me go. And I went home, and I realised then that I was like that close to going to jail for a long time for carrying all this weed. This is going back to the early 80s. And back then in Australia, if you got caught with anything, you were going to jail. There was zero tolerance. And that made me realise that I didn't want to go to jail. I didn't want to be involved with that stuff no more. Plus, with the death of my friend, that was just, I was done. I was done.
And so, man, you got the death of your friend, followed by you almost getting arrested and caught with a lot of material, a lot of product, So you decided to change your life, and did you then move to the States?
No, I stayed in Australia for quite a few years longer than that. I turned my life around. I got a career, learned how to drive a forklift, working in warehouses and stuff. I was doing that for a while. I met my wife, got married, had some kids. I just did the whole, back there it was the Australian dream, but the same as the American dream here, the white picket fence and the whole deal. I just wanted to do it straight. And then 12 years ago we moved over here, and here I am today.
That's pretty cool. So as far as like you said you got into forklifting, how long have you been dealing with, being a forklift operator?
Roughly 25 years, give or take.
Okay, and being a forklift operator, I know that like first I want to know is like, is it hard to get in there? Do you have to go out and study to get a certification, or what do you have to do to get into the field?
Well, I took a course and learned how to do it, and then in Australia you have to be certified. Over here in Indiana, I believe it's the employer certifies you and can even train you to drive the forklift if you show interest and aptitude towards that. And it's pretty simple. It's pretty simple if you know what you're doing. If you take your time, anybody can do it. But it's dangerous, yeah, but so is driving a car. If you use your common sense, it can be a good job.
Well, what I was going to ask you next is, what type of money can a person that's going into the forklifting industry expect to make after, getting a little experience and being in the game for a little while?
You could be earning around $15 an hour, upwards towards $18 an hour. A lot of places pay different, so it's possible that you could even get more than that. But it's a pretty good living once you get your hands on it.
Okay, and so if you go into it, as you said before, and you making the money and you doing what you need to do, I would like to know, like, what's some of the ways that you see, like, some of the guys that come in and they start their career into this industry, and how do they screw it up? Like, what's some of the best ways to keep your nose clean and to kind of stay out of trouble?
Well, you're driving a piece of heavy machinery, and it's real easy to make a mistake, to bump something or tear something up. And if you do, you just got to be straight up with your employer and say, hey, I had an accident, this is what happened. Don't try and hide nothing, just be honest. Own your responsibilities. And most likely they'll send you out for a urine test, So you got to be clean on that. So no more partying with the weed, no more taking drugs and shit. You just keep it clean, keep it straight, and you got no reason to lose your job.
Okay, so you heard what he said. No drugs. Keep it clean. Report the accidents. Of course, show up on time for work. Show up for work. And if you do those things, you can make good money being a forklift driver. So you can change your life around. So what I'm going to say is, man, we're going to end it there, man. Paul, I appreciate you. Thanks for coming out today, bro. And it's going to be more interviews to come. So we're going to end that there. If you don't want to end up in a box, think outside of it. YB.
Peace.
Drug dealing and killing is going on in my town. It don't take a killer to kill or a driller to drill. See, just being yourself is the definition of real.